Hey kids, it's football season. It's a winning season for you if you go to my bookie. I've been betting there all season. They're a sponsor of the show, but they also got me kind of turned on with this winning season program. You double your first deposit up to it sounds crazy, but if you put in $1,000, they match it. Player props, epic bonuses, cross sport wagers. If you're into complicated gambling, it's all there. If you're into straightforward like I am, make a couple bets, see how you do. It's great for that too. Winning season means watching a lot of live sports. You want to bet on them while you do it. There's a lot of different sports going on right now. They cover a bunch of them, and it's all season. Huge cash prizes, week in and week out. Get in on the action. Use promo code Fitzdog, Fitzdog, and double your first deposit. New players up to $1,000 in free play, designed to add more excitement to the sports you love and the games you bet. Bet with the best this NFL season for your chance to win big. Use promo code Fitzdog, double your first deposit. Look, your winning season begins today, only at MyBookie. Welcome to the show, people. Nice to see you. Good to be seen. I am seen, by the way, if you're listening to this. That's great. Enjoy my voice. It's a little thin and womanly. But if you want to take in the majesty that 54 years of life does to a face and a neck, go to YouTube. Go to my YouTube channel. And you can watch the show. And you can see me and you can see my guest Colin Quinn on today. I just spoke to Colin about an hour ago, and now I'm doing the little warm-up to it. It was fucking great. You'll see. You'll see. I'm not lying. Also on my YouTube channel is I had an hour of material I was getting ready to put out as a 1-hour special. I was going to start shopping it around to Netflix and all that. That's dead for a while. It could be fucking a year or two before you can do another special. So I'm taking a rough 1 hour of material and I'm starting to put it out just at a 2 or 3 minutes a piece. If you go to my Instagram account, you can watch my stand-up clips, which I did in Portland, Helium Comedy Club, one of my favorites, or it's on YouTube. Yep. So I'm reading about the Supreme Court today. It looks like I'm recording this on a Friday. So, who knows? Who knows what'll happen by Tuesday, but Trump has picked out his appointee for the Supreme Court. What a job. Doesn't it seem fucking crazy that these people that have so much responsibility and direct effect on how we'll all live our lives, they get the job forever? Does that seem like a bit much? Like people said Ruth Bader Ginsburg should have dropped out earlier while Obama was in office if she wanted a Democrat to get put in. But you can't help yourself. When you got a forever job, you don't walk away. You mean they'll keep paying me till I die? Or I just say no thank you? You know? And they love it. You get to fucking sit on a bench and decide whether or not people die in an electric chair, or you get to decide whether or not the country gets to get high. That's what the next Supreme Court's going to decide. Whether or not everybody gets to smoke a fatty and watch Netflix and watch the gross national product go, because it will. I'll be part of it. Look, I'll be smoking right along next to you. But scary proposal. Anyway, I don't know. What else do you do for life? You got the Pope. The Pope is for life. I think the last Pope before Francis stepped down was that Pope. What was his name? John Paul II? No, he was before that. Anyway, he stepped down because, there's a little issue with the boys, with the altar boys. And I think he fell on the sword on that one. But, what else do you do for life? You got lunch lady, the lunch lady, she stays there forever. Mine was 103. You got host of the Ellen DeGeneres Show. That's a forever job. That goes until the day you die. You can't stop that fucking train. You can throw a lot at it, but you ain't stopping it. That's Ellen D, folks. She's dancing her way right to the finish line. You know, she makes like $50 or $70 million a year. I think, honestly, I'd have walked away. I'd feel like that's enough. I got enough. I mean, she's been making that for 17 years, or at least half of that time she's been making so much. I don't know. What do people want? Just want to do fucking Sudokus, take walks, throw a move on the wife, pet a dog, see a movie. I don't want to dance for a bunch of housewives. She doesn't like it. I don't think she likes it anymore. Little secret. Comics will work forever. We don't stop. I see older comics. I grew up watching the guys from the Friars Club. They went from being like working at the Playboy Club, and a lot of those guys used to open for Sinatra. And then by the end, they were working cruise ships. They didn't give a shit. Who doesn't want to fucking tell jokes till they die? Look at Carl Reiner. Look at Mel Brooks. These guys are still getting up there. Fucking Carlin to the end. By the way, my first week back is coming up. A couple weeks. I'll be in Cleveland trying to stay safe at the Hilarities Comedy Club October 8th to the 10th. And then I will be back off the road again for, I think, a while. So if you want to see my only live appearances probably this fall, go to fitzdog.com for details. Short professions, I was curious about this. Obviously, strippers, models, they're out of the business by 30 in general. I think a stripper who really takes care of herself, which is not a lot of them, they're gonna retire about 34 tops. Models, less than that. Athletes, I looked it up. The shortest careers of any sport is football, 3.5 years. Wide receivers, in particular, 2.5 years. So you start off playing fucking Pop Warner Little League football at 6. You play through high school, through college, before you make any fucking money. And then all of a sudden you're like 23, you're out of college, they give you a contract. The average is that 2.5 years later, you're going to be done. Done. I mean, those motherfuckers go running across the field full speed with their head turned over their shoulder looking for the ball, not knowing what animal, what Cro-Magnon man is about to smash his head into your back or your fucking helmet. Those guys are insane. They're like kamikazes. Drug dealers, I don't think last statistically very long. That's a tough one. You're exposed to danger. There's a lot of stuff you got to do. You gotta be able to run from the cops. You got to be able to take a bullet. You know, I've seen TV shows. I haven't seen a lot of drug dealers. I've bought drugs from dealers. I've gone down to the Bronx as a teenager and bought drugs, and it's fucking scary, and they're young. The guys who sell it to you are fucking young. You got to be able to do pull-ups on scaffolding in New York City. There's a lot of that for drug dealers. A lot of pull-ups. You got to do time. You got to be able to do time. You got to be able to not go to the bathroom for many hours on end. There's no old guys doing that. It's never like, oh yeah, give me the $50. Go pick up the bag. Old man Jenkins is on the corner there. Yeah, don't make him get up. Get out of the car. His back is a little, he's got a thing. Just help him out. Speaking of my back went out. You ready for this? My nephew, who I've talked about on the show, my nephew Rowan, has been training me, boxing training. And he's an ex almost Green Beret, not Green Beret, SEAL, Navy SEAL. And he's a hard ass from South Africa. Anyway, let me just chew this dead skin off my lip. Anyway, he's been pushing me hard, hitting the heavy bag, burpees, lunges, push-ups, fucking nonsense. And I've been doing it. And then I go body surfing. I'm at the beach like 3 or 4 days a week at this point with my friends, just fucking riding waves. And when you ride the wave, you go down on it and crash. And so your back is like snapping every time you ride the wave. So long story short, I popped a rib out of the rib cage. It popped out. And I felt it pop out, and I fell to the ground, laying on my back, screaming, could not breathe. It was like I felt like I was being knifed. And so I got to my friendly chiropractor, and this, by the way, has happened before. This is maybe the 4th time. I got this one rib that pops out, and I get there, and he goes, well, lay down, face down. And he goes, was there anybody out in the waiting room? And I said, no. And he said, good. I don't want them to hear your screams. And then he put the palm of his hand on the rib, and he jumped up in the air and he came down on it, and there was a popping feeling into my back, and it was back in again. That's what I have to look forward to for the rest of my life. If I want to continue riding waves and maybe exercising. And this guy, by the way, my chiropractor, this guy named is Patrick Avedizian. He's a guy in Venice. If you ever have back problems, email me and I'll send you to this guy. He's great. Anyway, he told me to buy Bitcoin a year ago. Not Bitcoin, Tesla. He says, buy Tesla. I said, I don't know about Tesla. It seems like what's his name is a little nuts. What's his name? Why the fuck am I forgetting his name? Anyway, I'll think of it in a second. So I call my broker and I go, so my chiropractor, this is the last thing a broker wants to hear. My chiropractor thinks we should buy this stock. And so he gives me this whole long corporate evaluation, Elon Musk, of Tesla. And he says, it's a bad bet. They're overextended, blah, 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 blah. It was $50 a share. When I brought it to him, I just looked online now, $400 a share. That's almost 10 times the value. Motherfucker. And now he's saying Bitcoin. He's saying that there's going to be inflation and that Bitcoin is the safest place to put your money. He says, Greg, just take 100,000, put it in there and forget about it. This is what people think comedians make. This is the perception that my chiropractor has of me, is that there's this 100 large I forget about. Honey, where's the 100 large? Oh, I forgot about that. Anyway, I don't know. People go, well, Bitcoin, it's so mysterious. I mean, what is it? What's it tied to? I don't know. What's our currency tied to? We used to be tied to gold. It's not anymore. I know they just print it when they want it, and it seems to end up, I don't get it. I think it goes to the corporations and the banks. They seem to get it. They print it. I don't know. I don't understand how my credit card works. Piece of plastic. I don't know why every merchant that I give it to that swipes it why don't they take it and use it? I have no fucking idea. PayPal? I use PayPal. I use Venmo. I don't know how they work. I don't know how secure they are. Which, by the way, if you want security on the internet, what a fucking transition, Greg. If you listen, this is no joke anymore. When you're talking about being on the internet, being on certain websites, especially, if you're doing video conferencing, Zoom calls and such like that, people are getting on those and they're hacking them. There was one in Chicago where it was like all the government officials and some guy got on and he whipped his dick out and I think he did a meat spin or something. And, they put porn, they put all kinds of stuff. So anyway, you don't want this to happen to you during one of your calls. So what you're going to need is this company called Private Internet Access. It's a VPN, which is, I don't know what it stands for, but it hides your identity online, hides your IP address, encrypts your connection. It makes you anonymous when you're online. Like nobody will know who you are, which can be handy depending on what line of work you're in. Plus, you get all this free programming. Like if you want to get into what Netflix offers in other countries or other streaming platforms, like I watched, I got this. I got PIA, and I have used it for the last 2 months. And there's shows like Doctor Who that I watch, all the Rick and Morty seasons. You can watch them all, but you can't hear. So you get all this program, all for like $3 a month. It's unbelievable. They've got apps for all operating systems. It's easy to use. Click a button and you're protected. 30-day money-back guarantee in place. Try it out. Right now, with my code, you're going to get 77% off. Again, less than $3 a month, plus 3 months added for free. Only at privateinternetaccess.com/Fitzdog. Look, this is not a bum sell here. This is what you need today. Go to privateinternetaccess.com/Fitzdog, protect yourself, and get some free programming. What more do you need? For nothing. All right. Let's hit a couple letters. Oh, God, we're running long. We're running long, everybody. We'll just do a couple letters, and then we'll get to Colin Quinn. Michael Johnson writes to me. I get a lot of weird fucking emails, people, and I read them all. You know that if you email me. I reply. Fitzdog.com. No, what is it? Fitzdogradio@gmail.com. Anyway, I've become obsessed with women's eyebrows. It started last April when I went in for a haircut, and when the barber finished cutting my hair, he asked if I wanted an eyebrow trim. Instead of a trim, he shaved off my eyebrows. I looked like a cancer patient. I went home and drew on some eyebrows with my wife's eyebrow pencil. Since that day, I really started noticing women's eyebrows more. And now with everyone wearing face masks, I am even more aware of beautiful eyebrows. I thought I'd see if you could relate to this or if I am just creepy. P.S. I work with almost all women, and I think they might be on to my new eyebrow fascination. It's called a fetish, as I find it hard to look at them directly in the eyes as my gaze is about 2 inches above. Who, in your opinion, has the most delicious eyebrows? Easy! Selma Hayek. Selma Hayek has the greatest eyebrows. She played Frida, who is that artist. I think she was Mexican. She was a Mexican artist. And is a actually great film called Frida. And in it, Frida has like a unibrow, and Selma Hayek has just short of the unibrow. I'll tell you what, it's fucking sexy. You know what's sexy about it? Is sometimes when a woman has something that's a little different, a little non-conventional, it kind of gives you like, I remember being single and being like, okay, I got an in. There's something wrong with her. If a girl's perfect, I'm intimidated. But you got a unibrow, Fitzdog's going to buy you a beer. See what's up. Not anymore, though. And my wife is perfect, by the way. The same thing with foot fetishes. I don't have a foot fetish, but I appreciate a nice foot. Like, I will notice if a woman has a nice contoured foot, good hygiene, nice clipping job, maybe a color of toenail polish I enjoy, but you don't want to stare. And if you do, you notice that they saw that you looked at their feet. But it's like, I don't know, you're wearing flip-flops. I think it's open season. Put some fucking Doc Martens on if you're so shy. Let's do a couple say whats. Say what? Say what? Tony Klutwich says, when someone isn't very well, it's spelled Klootwijk. He's from the Netherlands. He says, when someone isn't very well liked in the city of Rotterdam, they say, quote, he has a good heart. It should hang from his back, boiled and low enough for dogs to reach it. You know, usually when you think of, I guess I'm just thinking of Amsterdam, but don't you think of them as like peaceful people? Like, I don't expect that kind of imagery. You know, they got legalized pot, prostitution, boats, little boats. But then I was thinking, like, there was that guy, remember Van Gogh's grandson or great-grandson was a filmmaker, and he did a film about something about Muslims, and a Muslim guy fucking killed him. So watch out. Netherlands, not what it used to be. Liz Rabaska said a contribution to say what? My grandfather, Don O'Day, born and raised Irish guy from Queens, used to say when describing a neighborhood bar, quote, it was the kind of place you threw your hat down and came in swinging. Yeah, that's the kind of bar I like. You throw your hat down, you come in swinging. That's how you fucking start. That's at 8 o'clock. I think maybe I used to like that bar. Now I'm more of the kind of guy where I want to kick my shoes off and spoon my wife. That's the kind of place I want. I want to peel off my coat and stare at a woman's eyebrows. That's the kind of place I want. Justin Cassidy said, my dad used to say when he was about to shit his pants, quote, I've got a turtle in a headlock sniffing cotton. Woo. Thanks, Dad. Kind of thought we'd just play catch. I mean, I'm only 8. I remember I've heard a lot of those phrases. There was always like, I'm crowning. I got a round in the chamber. I think there was some imagery of prairie dogs. Yeah. You shouldn't wait that long. You shouldn't wait until you've got a turtle in a headlock sniffing cotton. The turtle should be in his shell. There should be nothing coming out of your turtle shell. Maybe you feel a little pressure in your shell, a little wiggling, but that's it. That's it. All right. This is crazy. My guest today, what can you say about this guy? All comics that I know and respect think this guy is one of the best comics of all time. He is a New York City guy through and through. He encapsulates what New York is all about. He's truthful. He's funny. He's in his own way cynical, but upbeat. There's an actual optimism from true New Yorkers that you're going to get through it, that this guy has. He's been on the show a million times. Go back and listen. If you want, I bet you will find 10 old episodes of Colin. Maybe not 10, probably at least 7 or 8. Get the premium membership, folks. It's $19 a year, and you can go back and listen to 800 episodes for free. He's got a new special out it's out in November called Summer of 2020, a drive-in comedy special, and he's got a book out called Overstated on St. Martin's Press. You can find anywhere. Here's my chat with the great Colin Quinn. Welcome to Fitzdog Radio. Sitting about 3,000 miles away from me is a man who I'm sure shares some DNA with me. We should probably do one of those ancestry DNA tests and see who's more Irish, which of our other cousins had sex with. Colin Quinn, how are you?
Whoa. Hey, Greg. How you doing?
Is that too much energy?
No. What do you mean?
Listen, how Irish are you? Have you done the test?
Yep.
What was the breakdown?
97% Irish, 3% some islands off the coast of Ireland.
That is exactly what mine is, 97%. Although mine was 2% the islands off of the British coast and 1% Asian, which a lot of people go like, why am I part Asian? You tell me, Colin.
That's a good question. I mean, there's no explanation except, the Mongols, maybe they can be.
That's what it is. It's Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
They fuck everybody.
They got it around and then somebody brought it, to the probably Central Europe. And then from there, they went to the British Isles.
They had, I don't think that any tribe ever controlled as much of the earth as the Mongols at their peak, right?
Well, as a tribe, I'm sure Alexander the Great and the Romans had just as much, but yeah, as a tribe they did.
Yeah.
But they, but it was not a good. It was a rape culture, to put it mildly.
Yes. But what was interesting about the Mongols is they would come in and they would conquer and they would rape and they would kill, but they weren't like the Romans would come in and they'd go, all right, now you guys need to be Christian. You need to be a democracy. The Mongols went in and went, what are you guys doing? Oh, you got some kind of a weird pagan. That's cool. Keep doing that. Just give us just let us wet our beak and we're good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they weren't, I wouldn't say they were better, but I mean, as far as they were more religiously tolerant.
Yes.
But in some ways that's even more cynical. They were like, yeah, do your thing. And they're just being savagely beheading people. You're like, oh my God, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I'm reading this book right now about the Comanche Indians. And, I kind of wanted to ask you about it because your new book called Overstated talks about the history of each state and basically how it relates to the Constitution and whether or not the creation myth of each state, you kind of roast each kind of how each state started and where they're at now. Is that a good summary?
Yeah, definitely.
So how do you think we treated, like a lot of people, when you bring up indigenous people's rights, they talk about how the Indians were savages and they were killing each other and we just did the same thing to them as they did to us. How inevitable was it that we were going to have to commit genocide against the indigenous people?
I mean, that's a very loaded question, but I mean, it depends what you call inevitable. I mean,
in terms of manifest destiny.
Oh yeah, well, if you believe in manifest destiny, it was inevitable.
Yeah, right.
I mean, well, when we first came over, right? When Europeans first came over, they were like more civilized with the whoever the Native Americans were. Like they said, okay, they gotta have their space here. You had fights and wars, but it was like, and then they move them down kind of in the mid-South, you know what I mean? And then suddenly, by the way, Davy Crockett or Daniel Boone, I think it was Davy Crockett, they were like, hey, we got to treat these people right. This is unconstitutional to kick them off their land. And then Andrew Jackson was like, I don't care about Davy Crockett. I don't care about nothing. These people are moving. That was the Trail of Tears. He goes, we'll kill them or they're moving. That's it. I don't care. They're out.
Right.
And people were like, well, hey, most people were like, we'll go along. I mean, imagine going against Davy Crockett. This guy fought probably how many tribes?
Right.
But he was still like, hey, let's be fair. You got to honor the Constitution. Andrew Jackson goes, I don't got to honor here. I give you this. And then, so it was already happening. I mean, genocide before they even got to West, before they got to the Comanches,
Yeah.
And by the time they got to the Comanches were just like, look, I'm hearing things back east. We just got to go all the way. We got to go all the way. We're going to die. Right. You either die or you're going to live on one of these reservations. I don't care.
Yeah, it felt like with the Comanches, they, I don't think there was a lot of white flags. When you were fighting the Comanches, you were either going to win and live or you were going to lose and die. If you were taken prisoner, you were tortured and then killed.
Yeah. They'd skin you alive in the desert. Being skinned alive is painful. Skinned alive in the desert is a whole nother level. And I always wonder about some of these tribes, like were the Comanches, because, the Apaches got all the good press.
Yeah.
Because Geronimo, Cochise,
right.
They had big name, they had name value.
And they were headliners,
Yeah. And the Comanches got a lot of good press too. But I wonder, the Utes, for example, or the Pueblos.
Yeah.
Were they like the people like, I don't know, we can't, we can't, we're not in the same class.
Right. Yeah. I think it's almost like comedians. You've got your Jerry Seinfelds and your Chris Rocks who are headliners. But like the Comanches, they didn't have headliners because there was no chief. They operated as just like disparate kind of feudal states, and each little group just kind of like, if you were a great warrior, you'd go, hey, who wants to go hit this camp? And they'd round up a bunch of guys and go. But there was no leader. So then whenever they would make deals, like back when it was, who was the guy from Texas who was the big, he was actually,
Houston.
Yeah, Houston. They would make deals with the Indians, but they didn't realize that would be like you going to a street corner in Brooklyn and making a deal with the guy that's, selling sandwiches, and then going, yeah, we made a deal with New York.
Right.
There's no main guy.
So you're saying that the Apaches were like the improvs and the Comanches were like helium. There were less of them.
They couldn't really draw, no, they couldn't really, they try to sell their headdresses after the show. Nobody was interested. They would just walk by. Nobody would make eye contact. Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk about your book a little bit. I mean, I hate to just get into it because I could shoot the shit with you all day, but I know you're out doing press. You're trying to sell this book called Overstated. I listened to a bunch of it, and you're one of my favorite comics of all time. I really feel like you make other comedians feel like lazy, I feel like I should have. I watch you and I go, oh, I forgot to try.
Oh, no.
No, really, like you're out there. You started out as a dick joke comic like the rest of us, and then you started getting kind of smarter, and then and now you're like an author who doesn't just do stand up. You do regular shows, and no, it's really impressive. During the pandemic, you've got a special coming out, which is called Summer of 2020. Where did you tape it?
Because I'm like, the only difference with me is I noticed early on, most comedians are really smart. And I was like, because I would hear you, any comedian that I would see regularly would have like 5 jokes in their act that I was like, that says it all about that subject. Or at least that says more than most of the books you'll read, most of the op-eds you would read. That person just sums it up. And I was like, comedians are smart. And anytime you'd be sitting with comedians, I would always think like, start saying something and they're like, yeah, I know that. And you're like, oh my God, because you're used to people going, no, I never heard about that. Yeah. Now we had a lot of time on our hands, in fairness to us, but comedians just, there's something in their brain where I was like, oh, we can do whatever we want, any subject, not me, anybody, because they're just smart people,
And it's interesting because we weren't good students for the most part. You talk to most comics, and if they, most of them don't have college degrees, and there were a few guys that were like Greg Giraldo who went out and didn't he have a law degree from Harvard?
Yeah, he went to Columbia and Harvard Law.
Yeah, I mean, and that's rare. But at the same time, we collect information, and I don't know that. I think bad comedians look at a subject and then they go, all right, how do I present this in a way that will be appealing to a bunch of people that are sitting in a comedy club? And the good comics go, oh, here's my reaction to it. I'm going to let these fuckers figure it out as I explain it to them.
That's right. Because we have to, and we have to figure it out and articulate. I agree 100%.
Yeah. So who are the voices right now that you think are the most compelling in comedy?
I mean, like I said, it's not voices in particular. I feel like you'll hear anybody's routine that's good of 200 people on some subject, and you go, that distilled that.
Yeah, right.
I wish they would put up clips every week that everybody had to listen to, like the final word on that, because it's just distillation that happens so often.
Right. I mean? Do you find though, like right now, and I think back to Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn as being kind of the genesis of this really raw, honest, not PC type of comedy that you see a lot at the Comedy Cellar. You see a lot of it at the Comedy Store in LA. with guys like Ari Shaffir and Joey Diaz. And, but like, do you find there's like a move to the right for that voice of comedy right now? Do you feel like, and do you think that's a reaction to cancel culture and the PC mindset?
I would say most comedians are very left. So I don't know if there's a move to the right. Maybe a push to the right for certain people, but most comedians is left. It's always been that way.
Why do you think there's no conservative late night talk show hosts?
Because they don't, you know what I mean? They would not stay. I feel like in general in the business, they would be so overwhelmed with emails and cocktail chatter that would be like, do you really want that person to give that opinion? I mean, they're a little bit, I just feel like, in general, the media is very left, obviously. And so they would just, they would shun it or just ignore it or try to make it go,
When you say they, you mean viewers or the people that make the decisions?
People that make the decisions.
So I smell a conspiracy here. So you feel like the media is run by the left and are squashing the voices of the right?
No, I just feel like I said most comedians are on the left anyway.
Right.
So it's not a conspiracy, but people if you have a certain view of things, another view, you don't like it. So why would you want to, cultivate it?
Right. It is interesting though. Literally the only late night show that I ever saw that was conservative was that was it a Red Eye or something on Fox News with Greg Gunfield.
Greg Gunfield.
And it's so weird that I have not seen another. And I mean, you're talking about 15 shows on the air,
right?
And without exception, they're not just left; they are far left.
That's right.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think that when you go to clubs now, do you find you're kind of different because you draw your own audience? But I talk to guys like Attell, and he's like fixated on that. He's going to go to a club now, and people are going to be heckling him because his views aren't woke enough.
Right.
You don't really deal with that with your shows.
No, I don't. I mean, obviously, there's a few extreme individuals on both sides of this equation that are going to be like one of the things that makes me laugh most. Some people come up to me after the show and go, "I didn't agree with you, but it was funny." It's like I'm not trying to make people agree with me.
Right.
I'm not a political speaker. I'm trying to be funny and give you my opinion.
Right.
It's irrelevant to me whether anyone agrees or not. That's not what you're trying to do. I'm not trying to convert people. You're trying to say, here's what I think, and I want to make it a joke.
Yeah. Right.
Laughter first. Like doctors first do no harm. First get laughs as a comedian.
Right.
But it's funny because on the special, I asked these comedians which audiences are worse, MAGA or woke audiences. And they said both,
Yeah, right.
Anybody who comes into a comedy show wanting to reinforce some opinion they have is in the wrong place.
Right.
They shouldn't be there.
Right.
Comedy's supposed to be something else. Comedy's not related to it. It's not apolitical, but it's certainly not anybody that's a rigid, kind of a true believer, zealot. I'm not enjoying their comedy as much as somebody who can see the hypocrisy in everything and every side, including themselves.
Right. And it seems like the people that are on the edges of that, like if you talked about if there was a Bill Hicks today or there was, a Lenny Bruce, that they couldn't go play the improvs necessarily. Like, I don't know that would play. But the good news is with podcasts and with people doing four-wall shows, which is essentially what you did with your special, you go to a non-conventional place like a drive-in theater and you draw your own crowd. A comedian now can have a unique voice and they can connect with people and they can draw enough to make a fantastic living without ever necessarily having a sitcom on ABC.
Right. I mean, you'll never make that sitcom on ABC money.
Right.
Maybe some people do, but most people don't, but you can make a living, like you said, a good living. I mean, you're never going to sell out I've never sold more than 400, 500 seats, which is great.
Yeah.
But I'll never sell 1,000 seats. But you can still do really well and have people come and be like at comedy clubs, sometimes you can see some audience members, if they don't know better, when I'm working the stuff out, I'm usually at clubs.
Yeah.
And most people kind of know they're in for a tedious time with my setups now. So they wait and they're like, okay. But there's always a few people like, hey, what is this? What's he saying? James Madison, fuck you. But I mean, so you still have that thing going on in certain clubs, but most people, they find their people they like to watch. And then they listen to you, you know?
Yeah.
You go on the road, most of the people, they were like, this is how Greg is.
Yeah.
So they're really into it. It's a deeper layer.
It is, but it's weird because I feel mixed about it, because when I go out and I am working a club, like if I work an improv, those rooms are some of them are 500 or 600 seats. Yes. And so what they have to do is they have to give out some free passes, because I'm good for the first 300. And then they got to do the other half. And there's a part of me that finds it really honest to get a bunch of people that don't know me. And I have opinions that, are definitely not the status quo. And I find that is sort of the art of stand-up, is getting those new people to get on board. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Because anybody can be parochial and play to their friends, their group, the people that understand their language, just a little click comedy. But to go out and just go, I don't care where you're from, I'm a professional. I'm going to make you laugh at what I want, what I think is funny.
Right.
That's the challenge. But those improvs are too big. They bit more than they can chew. Instead of them having to paper the room, which is not fair to the people that paid, and it's not fair to the comedian, because paper room is they're trying to push drinks. It's not going to be the best crowd usually.
Right.
What they should do is a thing I call drywall. Drywall, plaster, grout.
Right. Instead, what they have is some of them are so big that they literally have built a curtain in, so that when you only sell half of it, they draw the curtain. And it's the saddest thing as a comic to be backstage and hear that noise of metal, of curtain being drawn across a half-empty room.
I know it well. Yeah. Yeah. But don't you also I hate to make it all inside comedy, but that's what we are. But don't you like a half-filled room?
Oh, yeah. I love Friday night. Comics hate Friday Night Late Show. My favorite show of the week.
Yeah.
That's the one that people come into, and comics hate it because people have worked for 5 days straight. They got up at 6 a.m. that day to work. They got out of work. They went to dinner, had a couple drinks. They get to the club at 10:30. The club says, no, you need 2 more drinks. And now you got to wait for the 2 other acts to go on. And then you get up there, the room's half empty. And that to me is like the Wild West. That's when it gets fun.
And their feet are up on the chairs.
Yeah. Right.
But the good thing, it used to be like that was the worst crowd because it'd be so rowdy. When the club's packed, it's bad.
Right.
But when it's half empty, these people already yelled out. They're just chilled out in their seats. And they're not even, and you get them laughing. It's like you said, it's a victory. They're so tired.
Right.
And a couple of them fall asleep.
Yep.
I remember one time I was at Cleveland Improv, I think. And I was definitely in Cleveland. And there was a couple up front. I had a rowdy crowd second show. It was just, they weren't the good kind of rowdy. They were just just bad people. And there was this couple up front, the most beautifully dressed. They looked like models. Like just, the guy was like 6'1", classic, handsome. I was making little jokes about them. They're sitting there like this, smiling. Girls gorgeous. They're both, and I was like, and they're dressed up beautifully. And I said to the crowd, yeah, because I'm trying to do my show not for you assholes. People paid to see this show. They don't want to hear your bullshit. And then, it had an effect with the rest of the crowd.
Yeah. And
then like 3 minutes later, this couple got up and they both walked a foot and fell down drunk. They didn't hear a word I said the whole night. They were smiling like this. They didn't know what was going on. And they both said these beautiful people. Boom.
I had a show. Do you remember the Aku Aku in Worcester, Massachusetts?
No.
It was a Chinese restaurant. You know, it was one of these big Polynesian restaurants. And you know this, back in the comedy boom, back in the late 80s, early 90s, right. If you had a Chinese restaurants always had a banquet room in the back.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was always empty.
Massachusetts was all Chinese restaurant gigs, yeah.
All Chinese restaurant gigs, because they realized that like these rooms were empty 6 nights of the week. And so they would have a comedy night, and comedy was so hot. You literally, all you had to do was like take a crayon and write comedy on some cardboard and put it out front, and the place would fill up. And so I'm playing at this place, the Aku Aku, and people are drinking booze. It's the Friday Night Late Show. People are drinking booze out of wooden bowls with straw. And it's supposed to be like 4 people share a bowl. No, each person had their own bowl. And so this woman is in the front row and she passes out. And so I thought it would be funny to wake her up and put the microphone in her face. She's in the front row to the side, so everybody can see her.
Yeah.
So I put my hand on her knee and I shake her, and she wakes up, and people start screaming, laughing, and she freaks out and vomits on the stage.
Oh.
Eva sleeping dog lie, Colin.
Oh yeah. No, we both had, I'm sure, but I've had, people attack me in the audience.
Have you really?
Oh, physically attack. Because they
ever get hurt?
No. But I've had them attack, physically jump after, grabbing at them, and then the bouncers came on.
Right.
Just because they're drunk, they don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. And it's just one of it's part of because like you said, people are drinking. You're trying to do comedy, which is really about thinking, a twist of words, phrases, thoughts, and they're serving giant 4-person bowls of alcohol to one person, and nobody ever questions it.
Yeah. And back then,
liquor.
And back then, there was this guy Dick Doherty.
Dirty Dick Doherty.
Dirty Dick Doherty, and he was famous for these Chinese rooms, and they were a cash cow because he was charging people $15 to get in. He had 200 people, so what's that? $3,000. The comedians, the headliner was making $150. The other 2 acts were making $50. So this guy was clearing, over $2,000 a show, and he had 20 shows running a night all over New England. No door guy. All he had was one person selling tickets. No bouncer. No overhead.
Unbelievable.
It was unbelievable, man. They were printing money back then.
Yeah.
All right, listen, let's get to this book. I listened to state by state. I listened to about 10 of the states. And it was really great because, you get to New York and you basically sound like New York is done. Like it's an old person that's kind of dying.
Yeah. Well, New York this is sort of before Corona, but it was semi-Corona, but really I wrote the New York chapter before Corona. Just the fact that they keep digging it up,
right?
Constantly digging it up and trying to replace all these pipes.
Right.
And it never, my neighborhood alone, there's 5 blocks that they dug up for a year, closed it up, went back in 3 months later.
Yeah.
It's like somebody who's dying when they keep going back in operating,
Right.
It's the bottom. We're so lucky we're built on this granite, whatever, because the pipes, it's impossible.
There's never been more human activity. How big is Manhattan? 7 miles by 3 miles?
Right, something like that. Yeah.
And there's never been more human activity on that amount of space, I think, in the entire world. If you think about, well, no, that's not true. It's not that old. But if you said in the last 200 years, it's just insane how many people I had a studio apartment that I renovated. It was 500 square feet and I renovated it. And every other space in New York has been renovated 5 times. And meanwhile, to renovate, you can't just double park a construction truck out front.
Right.
All the getting lumber. You don't go to 13th Street and buy lumber. You got to go out to New Jersey, haul it in, pay $8 at the toll at the bridge each way. Like, it's insane.
No, yeah. And you can't park. There's no way to park. You can't double park for 5 minutes.
Right.
Or you'll get tickets left and right. No, yeah. New York it's impossible. And it's great, but it did become too popular. And now there's all these empty buildings.
Right.
Because they developed so much. It was already overdeveloped before Corona. There was a lot of empty buildings. Like, all that WeWork stuff started to fall apart because there's just all this empty space. So they made WeWork, and now forget it. Now Corona exposed that people can work from home.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And then you've got all the retail spaces that are empty because people are getting everything on Amazon.
Yes. Yeah. And they were empty before. Before this, I noticed a lot of empty stores.
Yeah.
Now you walk down the block, it's like the 1970s.
Oh my God.
Block after block of boarded up stores.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Because they can't stay in my corner grocery store that I've been going to since 10 years. I lived in this apartment. Grocery store I go to almost every day. This week, today's their last day. In fact, today or tomorrow.
Oh, that's so sad.
It's done. They can't pay the rent.
That sucks.
They can't pay the rent. They've been saying it for 2 months, and now I thought it was just they were going to somehow stay open. They're gone.
But if it's people are still buying groceries. Is it because so many people have left the city?
But there's so many people who left the city, and there's a Whole Foods a couple of blocks away. So people buy the bulk groceries at Whole Foods. But yeah, this store stayed open because, when you want anything else, you don't want to make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
Just item. And yeah, because so many people left the city.
Right. Wow. Do you think the city's coming back? I mean, it always comes back, right?
I mean, I guess not right now. I mean, even when people said the city came back, like in the 70s, the city was really bad. I grew up here. But then in the 80s, it came back in the 80s, but it was still crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, so there was still like that vibe in between. So I think it's going to be a strange place for the next, because, a lot of people, I was shocked moved out of the city, just moved.
Yeah.
And just said, I'm moving. I was like, it's a little early to jump the gun on this.
Right.
But ask any real estate person up Westchester, Long Island, New Jersey. They're all doing amazing.
Yeah, it's going crazy.
Some guy knows, real estate guy from Connecticut, said he sold 17 houses last year. He sold 17 a month since March.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, LA's the same way. All the comics are leaving. Rogan just moved to Austin, and Ari Shaffir is going to live in South America.
What?
He's moving to South America.
Does he speak Spanish or Portuguese?
I don't know. I don't think he cares. He went to Asia for like 6 months, and he didn't speak any Asian languages. So he's getting out. And then Duncan Trussell, he went to North Carolina. Theo Vaughn moved to Louisville. Joey Diaz moved to Jersey. It's like the Comedy Store is going to have a hard time putting a lineup together, because not only that, but then you've got about 3 or 4 of the big comics on the lineup that were all canceled for different reasons.
Right.
So Fitzsimmons is going to go from the 10:45 down to the 8:15 when this thing opens back up again. Yeah, baby! Keep on going.
But guess what? Here's when you know you're getting older. When you want the 8:15.
I know.
When I was coming up, I'm like, I want the 10. Yeah. I want the 9:45. Now it's like, go to 8:15. I like that better. Get in, get out.
Right. Early dinner with the wife. I'm back in bed. We can watch a Friends rerun before I go to bed. This is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's not the life.
But I do wonder about comedy too, because, it is kind of a weird thing now where, things are a perception. So now it's like this Corona, does it shatter the perception that you needed to go to comedy clubs? Because they were doing so well for so long. And now people get used to being on Zoom at work. does it also make everybody kind of a shut in the sense it's like, I don't want to go out.
Right.
It changes things.
Yeah, I think that'll be one reaction. And the other reaction is going to be the people that are dying to get out, because I've only done one show in the last 7 months, but it was 15 people that were having an orgasm for an hour and a half straight. And everybody, Tom Papa just came back from doing some gigs on the road, and he said he's never seen crowds like this before.
Right.
So the people
that could be taken two ways. Maybe Tom Papa was trying to trick you by saying, I've never seen crowds like this before. It's a very ambiguous statement.
It's very Papa. It's a very Papa move.
I've never seen crowds like this before. Or, I've never seen crowds like this before. Yeah, no, I know. But yeah, he's been out a lot.
Yeah, he's crazy. He's insane.
Yeah.
I got my first gig coming up in 2 weeks. I'm going to Cleveland. And, I took the gig and I was excited about it. And as it gets closer, I'm starting to get scared because I realize when I get home, I got to kind of quarantine from my family for a week. I can't, I'm standing in front of, 200 people for 5 shows and flying. That's a lot of exposure.
It's a lot of exposure. I know, it's crazy. I'm just, I keep thinking like I was in a car for 7 hours with my cousin who had corona really bad. Like we didn't know it at the time. It was the beginning of March, first day of March. And he got so sick and he's in the car with me for 7 hours each way, like 14 hours. And just right next to me, half asleep and just sick. And he got tested 2 weeks later. He had corona and I never got it.
No shit.
I didn't get it and I didn't get any antibodies or anything. So I'm thinking, they say some blood types get it. So I'm living in the magical world where I'm never going to get it.
Are you O positive?
I don't know.
Oh, because they say people with O blood don't get it. People with A blood do.
I'm O positive.
There you go.
No.
I'll see. Well, you got anything I noticed you got something on October 11th at the Ridgefield Playhouse with Gary Gulman. Is that your only road date coming up?
That's the only gig I got coming up. We're doing it outdoors on a Sunday. Shows are 4 and 7. Yeah. I'm getting ready for my life in the Villages in a few years.
Right. Yeah. The Villages.
The 4:00 show, sweetheart. Come on, you can make it. She'll be like, I don't know. Come on, honey.
4:00 show, and you're usually working like, I know I talked to, I'm not going to say which comic, but like I know one comic that's already moved into that world.
Right.
And you go down there for the winter and you stay for like 2 or 3 months and you just go from condo place to condo place, and they're brutal audiences.
Sure. Because, you got to please remember something. The hipsters, you don't make the band laugh. You make the home attendants laugh.
Yeah, you get off and they start confiding in you. Yeah, I never liked Mrs. Morrissey. She's a pain in the ass. You're bonding. All right, so
I think you're making a mistake saying Mrs. Morrissey. There's no Irish people in those places. It's Italians and Jews.
Yeah, right.
I don't know where Irish people go when they're old, but I feel like we tend to go up to the colder places.
The Irish don't leave. If you live in Boston in a triplex, or what do they call them, a triple decker, and you move. You start out on the top floor, and that's you got pregnant at 17. Your parents put you in the top floor. You stay with the baby daddy sticks around for 3 months, then he's gone. Parents help raise him. Grandparents are on the bottom floor. So every generation you move down a floor so that you don't have to climb the steps when you're 7.
I like that. By the way, speaking of Irish, do you feel like today is overcast in New York? My happiest weather is overcast. I love it. That's like a sunny day to me. You feel that way too?
I always love that song. I'm only happy when it rains.
Yeah.
I am never more productive. I'm never more emotional. Like I feel emotions when it's cast over. When it's sunny, I feel like there's no room to have an emotion except happy. You're not allowed to.
Yeah, I think it's genetic.
Yeah. Yeah, we were supposed to go this summer. My my mom and my sister and my whole family, all my cousins. We rented this big house down in County Cork, and we were supposed to go. It was going to be the first time my kids were in Ireland, which I was really excited about. And it obviously got canceled with the corona. Have you been over there?
Yeah. Well, last time I went I did one of these Dublin comedy festivals.
Right.
And I was with a bunch of comedians. It was fun because you're with all these comedians every day that we all know from New York. And then the shows, and it was so funny because one of the comedians, Mark Norman, very funny comedian.
Yeah.
And he goes, and he's great, and he did great, but he goes, boy, these audiences, he goes, they don't give you an inch. He goes, you think you're killing, because they're all drinking. It's 9:30, 10 at night. They're all drinking like crazy, big crowds in a tent. Yeah. So you think the festive atmosphere, he goes, you make them laugh at the joke. And then they're like, okay, what do you got next?
Right.
He goes, they listen to every word. Right. And that's such an Irish thing,
Yeah.
Where they're never going to get swept up and like, we're laughing. Yeah. Everything's funny. Yeah. Like, we laughed at that because it was funny. What are you going to say now?
Right.
It's such a specific personality.
It's like the dinner table when I was growing up. It was like you had to make everybody laugh. And if you laid an egg, they would if you started going long, my father would put his elbow on the edge of the table and he'd start to go like this. He'd make the elbow slip off the table and humiliate you. I mean, it was bad. It really made you feel bad about yourself. And to this day, I'm convinced that's why me and a few of my Irish friends that grew up like that, we're in entertainment because we know how to keep it tight, deliver, quality control.
I mean, you're telling me my exact thing is anytime I go on stage, whether I do great or I bomb, you could not have gotten more work out of me.
Yeah.
I make sure I did my homework.
Right.
I'm not coming in. I never come in unprepared.
Right.
Because I'm like, even if I digress, I did as much as I could because of that thing where you're like, hey, how dare you get up and do this for a living? Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Who are you to, what is this? Yeah. And you got to bring whatever you have. Right. Could be little or a lot. You better bring everything you have to justify,
Well, it's a respect for the craft. I mean, when I started out, because I grew up in New York also, and Tarrytown, your favorite town in Westchester.
I love it.
And we used to come
Everybody
down.
Loves it. Everybody loves it. That's everyone's favorite theater. I shot a special there on Constitution.
So did I.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like Headless Horseman days. It's so old.
It was built in 1890. And I shot my last Comedy Central special there. It's actually not a great place to do a special for me because it's like 1,700 seats and I did 2 shows. So I had to try to sell 3,400 tickets, which I didn't quite fill the balcony. So it's not the same sound as you would get as if you went into like a nice 500 or 600 seat box theater and blow it out. But it looks amazing.
I shot one show. I could only afford one show at the time. So I shot one show. Shot it. Show went great. I could leave the stage. I came back out. I go to the crowd. Let me explain something to you people. I just shot a special on the Constitution, which is difficult. You laughed the whole time. And you didn't give me a standing ovation. I said, people do 20-minute specials. They get a standing ovation. Yeah. You bastards couldn't stand up for my hour special.
Right. So did you have them stand up so you could have that for the special?
Then they stood up, but I was annoyed by it. But
did you get that special?
Yeah. No, we should have left that. I would have left that in, of course.
Yeah.
Like, no. They made some flimsy excuse why it didn't happen. Imagine having to come out and scold a crowd.
Yeah.
I just did an hour. We had a beautiful set like the Constitution.
Right.
They're laughing. It wasn't like they were bored and just like, you stink.
Right.
They're laughing. And yet at the end, no standing up.
Right. Then you got Sebastian's up there, showing you how you got to reach up high at Bed Bath & Beyond and acting it out. He gets a standing O. What's that all about?
And by the way, speaking of Irish, my family came to the show, drove up from Brooklyn, came to the show. I saved them seats. 6 of them came. My brother, my sister, a couple other people. 6 seats I saved them. They didn't show up. I'm like, Great. They're not here. Where are they? They're not here. All right, we'll give the seats away at the beginning of the show. Well, after the show, they come up, hey, I go, what happened? They go, well, we didn't want to bother. We just waited online and we went up and sat we got seats in the last row of the balcony. I go, I had seats saved you. Nah, we don't want you to save seats. That's another side of Irish people. Let's face it.
Not only that, but then that actually is more difficult for you because now before the show, you're thinking about that instead of going over your material.
Yeah, but can you imagine? They wait on the back. They got there. They go, we got there a little bit. We didn't get there at 7:30. The show starts today. We just wait online. Right. Wait online for 45 minutes and then sit in the way back.
Yeah, that's hilarious. My family's the opposite. They walk in. And they just can't understand why they don't have backstage passes for before the show. They want to come back before the show.
I hate before the show comebacks.
You can't do it. I remember I came and saw your show at the Montreal Comedy Festival. Maybe it was the Red State, Blue State one. Did you do that up there?
No, maybe it was New York Story.
Yeah, maybe it was New York Stories. But I remember coming to see you. It was a bunch of comics got together because the theater was a little bit outside of town. You didn't quite make it. You didn't quite make it in the inner.
No, I never do.
And so we came out and saw you, and I felt so bad saying hi to you after the show because I just know that sometimes when you do a show as intense as what you just did, you just want to go get a steak sandwich and go back to your room. No,
but not with are you kidding me? I mean, comedians, friends of ours. We have such a history. It's such a weird how much time you spend together and then don't see each other for years.
I know.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I know. Especially now because, like that one show I did, by the way, there was like, maybe 8 comics and they were all people that I'm used to hanging out in the back of the Comedy Store with. And it was like, even better than performing was getting to hang out with these comics again.
Yes.
I miss that so much.
Well, that's what this special is about that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a bunch of people hanging out and abusing each other. I'll give you some of the highlights. Rich Voss goes, it's for HBO Max. He goes, "What are you?" He's in the camera. He goes, "What are you?" I couldn't even download HBO Max. He goes, "You're a pain." He goes, "Why can't I be on the real HBO?"
Does he realize there is no real HBO anymore? There's only HBO Max. You dumb Jersey fucking Shane smoking. It's HBO Max is like I have Roku. You can't get HBO on Roku right now, which drives me fucking crazy. They made some kind of, do you know about this? There's like
why?
Well, because HBO Max made individual deals with each provider, whether it's like Verizon or AT&T. And apparently I didn't realize Roku is a provider. I thought it was just the hardware in your TV, but they've got their own programming now. And so everybody thought this was going to get easier. We get on the internet, be able to get every show anytime. But there's so many, there's so much of this. So anyway, I had to hook up an Apple TV on the other TV to watch HBO. It's a pain in the ass.
Oh my God, it's a real pain in the ass. But you're right. It's all these people going, wait a minute. We want to make it easier. Yeah. And how much money are we giving off? Are we letting go to make it easier?
Yeah. Right.
And then they're like, no. You do this. You do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Chop it up.
Now, we looked at our bill last week and we realized we're paying separately for Hulu, for HBO Max, for Netflix. I mean, at the end of the day, we're spending like $250 on TV. I got to cut the wire. It's time. But anyway, this special. So you shot it at it used to be a drive-in theater or it's still a drive-in theater?
It became a drive-in theater.
Right.
And one of the agents named Becky, who lives around there in Greenpoint, found it, and they just started making a drive-in theater. It used to be like a warehouse. It used to be an outdoor parking area for warehouses. But now, since COVID, nobody's using it.
Right.
Nobody's working in the warehouse. So it's this big empty parking lot with views of the city, it's like you're paying $100 million for it, you know?
Really?
It's amazing.
Wow.
And just the dichotomy between the beautiful view and us insulting each other, talking about doing stand-up and everybody's anxious. They haven't done it in so long. So people insult each other more because you're just trying to blow off some steam.
Yeah, right.
You're not going to have a great set.
Right.
So you might as well do that. And then, so that was pretty funny. I hope we captured enough of it,
Did Keith Robinson come out?
Unfortunately, Keith did show up, yes. He was very snide.
He's very snide. I mean, I don't know where does his sense of self come from? He's,
Well, comedians, no comedian can last, in my opinion, without a strong sense of, because remember something, you're telling me you're going to this town, they're going to pay you. Do you play an instrument? I do not. Can you sing? No. What do you want people to pay for? This.
Right.
Me to talk to you. All I do is talk. So if you don't have a real belief in that,
right,
how can you last in this business?
Yeah.
Especially if you've been in comedy. I feel like the real separation is how many times. If you haven't bombed 10 times, some people I know that were very funny. They couldn't take bombing. They left the business. You got to be as tough as nails to put up with that bombing. Yeah,
there's nobody better than. There's a handful of guys. You're really good at bombing, and I don't mean that as a backhanded compliment.
Oh no, I know what you mean.
When you come to the cellar, and we already talked about this, you come with a bunch of notes you got in your back pocket, or you even pull it out, and you're going through stuff, and obviously that's not going to be the same response as someone gets in a theater. But you're like a fighter. You never turn your back. You keep your feet planted. You take some punches, and you keep throwing. It's kind of a lesson on how to like get better as a comic. Yeah,
what people need to realize eventually is if you want to get better, you have to go back to square one almost.
Right.
And be up there like people hating you. And you feel bad because you're like, these people wanted to have a good time tonight.
Yeah.
They didn't come out to watch me work out. But the New York clubs were always supposed to be about working out.
Right.
That was part of the whole philosophy. And luckily there's more comedy savvy people in the past 20 years. So a lot more of the audience is tolerant of that.
Right.
Than there used to be. Like they're like, okay, they're working out, like they're almost interested in it. So thank God for that.
I think you get less of that in LA because it is a town where people are trying to get seen for casting or development. And I think you see a lot of comics go up and do the same 15 minutes night after night. And it's almost like it fucks up the show too, because I don't want to go on after Chris D'Elia, who's doing the same shit and he's physical and he's killing. And then it's like you go up and there's this, and again, you can follow anybody, but when that happens, it's going to take me 5 minutes to get them back in a place where they're just listening.
Absolutely. It changes your whole act. I mean, how many times have you been on the road yet? People don't understand this. Headlining is one of the hardest things. So if I'm on the road headlining, I have 3 new bits that I want to explore somewhere in my show. And I'm like, this is good. This is going somewhere. I'm excited about it. I have a little bit of work I've done on it, and I'm ready. The middle blows out the room. All bets are off now. I'm out there like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It changes my game. It changes the game plan.
So who do you bring to feature for you?
I don't bring anybody. I usually just go. Or my cousin Tim Gage, when I'm doing gigs, he opens for me a lot.
Right.
He doesn't like when I call him my cousin, but he is my cousin. Because I could do the long way where I go, Tim Gage, and then you go, who's that? And then I go, he's a comedian from Long Island. You go, I don't know him, Tim Gage. Instead, and then eventually you go, oh, it's Colin's cousin. So I figure I'll just cut to the chase.
Right.
But
it's like
killed.
Trump. It's like Trump. You should have to say he's Fred Trump Sr.'s son.
Yeah.
What's going to happen with this Supreme Court appointment? Do you think that it's going to happen before the election and after? And which do you think is better?
Well, it's after. I mean, no way. There's no way he could get it through before. That's insane. That's crazy. He can't do it this close. No. I mean, don't get me wrong. Trump He could care. Trump just lives to watch people fight. He doesn't care. He just loves it.
Yeah.
He just loves every bit of it. There's some people that they're only peaceful when everybody is fighting.
Right.
Doesn't matter why, doesn't matter. That's his thing.
Yeah.
And you're never going to change that. So
and for most people, it's the opposite. We avoid conflict at all costs. And so when somebody is like that, we just most people just give up and go, okay, I'll have it your way.
Trump just loves it. He lives to watch people fighting, like that's his peaceful place. Like when the whole country's like attacking each other and screaming and it's like he has a pina colada on the beach.
Yeah, right.
He's just happy.
And he's a comedian, basically. I mean, do you think how much do you think of his appeal is because he actually does shtick?
Yes. I think it's a lot of it. And I don't just think it's his appeal. I think it's what got him addicted. Because when he said that first debate, he killed. First debate, he had like 3 really funny remarks. And since then, he actually got legitimate laughs. And ever since then, it got in him where he's like, I like this feeling. That's why he holds rallies all the time. People think he holds rallies to get his base all fired up. He holds rallies because he's addicted to doing live stand-up.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you watch, and he tries, and now he doesn't know enough to really understand how to get laughs. So he'll accidentally stumble into one every once in a while.
Yeah, right.
But he's not smart enough to really know, okay, wait a minute. So he keeps trying, and he does like 30 minutes and gets a couple of laughs.
Yeah.
But he's trying to be funny all the time. And then be like, but he's just not great at it. Yeah. But he's like, but he works so hard that people are like, okay, he wants a laugh. Eventually, you know how it is. How many guys you're like, that guy's not good, but he basically, what T. Sean Shannon used to say about people, he used to go, he date rapes the audience. Those guys. They're in people's faces.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, we are out for a good time. Let's just laugh.
Yeah.
He's obviously not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not going to stop, so just laugh.
Yeah, you're stuck. You can't get up and leave, so you got to make the best of it. So you collectively give the guy a pass.
And he's addicted to stand-up. So I think it's a lot to do with it.
But I also think that there's a truth to stand-up. And when someone's trying to be funny, I do think that the audience is kind of going like, all right, this guy has more power than me. And in the debates, I'm really worried with Joe Biden that in the debates, he's gonna annihilate Joe Biden.
He might. I mean, I don't know what kind of shape Joe Biden's in. He seems very feeble.
Yeah.
And Trump has that energy. Like he's got I did a roast once, and Trump, like 15 years ago, Trump was one of the roasters. So I made my jokes about him. I didn't, he's a real estate guy. Made jokes, he's dumb, he's a millionaire, whatever. And then he got up and he starts roasting us. And for a minute, you're like, this guy's funny. You only had one move like today. Yeah. But for a minute, he's like, how about that guy from Saturday Night Live? I watched Saturday Night Live for years, never heard of him. He must have really been a loser. And it was kind of funny at first.
Yeah.
But yeah, the energy is what you're talking about, I guess. His energy and Biden's energy. Biden's energy is very low energy. Although he's kind of, he's got a pugnaciousness to him.
Yes, he's a fighter.
But I don't know if he's got energy left to be that way.
Yeah, he seems like he's best when he's on script. And, but the bottom line.
Yeah.
It's like what you said, though.
Go ahead.
It's like what you said, though, like all you need to do is score 2 or 3 good laughs. And those are going to be the sound bites that everybody talks about. So all Biden needs, he just needs a couple good ones up his sleeve. Yeah,
that's exactly right. But again, as you know, delivery is very important.
Right.
I mean, I know, we both know 50 comics that had this voice and they were so funny. You're like, that guy's jokes are great. And some other guy, no material, but to come up there and just boom and just be like this. And like, how's he getting laughs? There's no joke. Doesn't matter.
Right. It's like watching Todd Barry.
Right. Yeah. I mean, who's funnier than Todd Barry? But he does it. His energy works because he's He's very pugnacious.
No, I only shit on him because I know you guys go back and forth a lot. But I saw you the Twitter feed between you guys yesterday, and he texted you and asked for a free book from you.
He's so I know. And here's the worst part. First of all, he does that with every corporation every day. Free things for Todd. You ever see that?
No.
That's like his thing. Oh my God, he goes after Apple, everybody. He's always trying to get freebies. And I'm sure a lot of them send them, or we wouldn't be doing the running joke all these years.
Yeah.
The part that pisses me off is I bought his book, Hattiesburg. Thank you for coming to Hattiesburg when it came out. And yet he still wants a freebie from me.
And he said that you said that you were going to get your people to send it over. And then he texted you, you're probably at UPS right now. And you texted back and said, I am.
I was at UPS.
True?
I was at UPS.
But did you go to UPS to send him the book?
No. I just happened to be at UPS.
Okay.
So when he said that, I was like, this is really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Unbelievable. I want to ask you before we go, you know New York like nobody else, so I want to ask you about two places and give me your take on them. I was born in Throgs Neck in the Bronx. I lived there for about 5 years. That's where my mom is from. It's where my wife's mom is from. My mother and my wife's mother went to high school together.
Right.
And we didn't realize that until we'd been together for like 6 months. So what's your take on Throgs Neck?
Well, I mean, Throgs Neck is just, like you literally, when you try to leave Throgs Neck, you have to take a civil service test. You have to, if fire, police, sanitation, you have to take the test. I think they give it out at birth, And
it is one of those areas that has the kids are upstairs. The grandparents are downstairs. You work your way down. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, it's a real one of the last of the New York real neighborhoods.
Yeah. And then my dad grew up in Bayside, Queens. What's your take on Bayside?
Well, Bayside, Queens is it's not the city, it's not the suburbs, it's not a neighborhood. It's sort of, you know what I mean? Like Queens won't claim it, Long Island won't claim it.
Right.
It exists, but it's every nobody really understands. You know what I mean? Did you ever work Jimmy's Comedy Alley?
Yeah, right.
I was out in Queens.
Yeah.
In Bayside.
Right.
And it's got a Long Island Railroad station. Like, that's what's weird. You can't trust any neighborhood where the convenient way to get there is the Long Island Railroad, but it's not in Long Island.
Right. And you can either take the subway or the LIRR. If you take the subway, it's $1.75. Or how much is it? How much is Subway? $2.75?
Yeah, but the subway doesn't go to Bayside.
Oh, it doesn't.
No, you have to.
So you got to pay like $8 to take LIRR. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't get out there.
Right. We've played a game before on this show. We're going to play it again. It's called Rank 'em. I'm going to give you 3 things, and you're going to rank them.
All right.
I don't give you the criteria. Rank it any way you want.
You rank them 1, 2, 3, or by points?
1, 2, 3.
Got it.
Mark Twain, Will Rogers, George Carlin.
I'd say George Carlin, Mark Twain, Will Rogers.
Why?
Well, because George Carlin, I wouldn't have even gone into comedy if it wasn't for George Carlin.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about the influence of this Irish, I remember 13 minutes of his act transformed all of my relatives, from my parents and uncles and aunts, transformed their lives. Not that they changed, but healed some part of them. Let's just say that.
Wow, that's
that
amazing.
13 minutes of that routine. I never saw them sit there. They laughed at other things, but the way you could feel the energy change. We loved it as kids, but they loved it in a different way. And it was that 13 minutes about Catholics. I used to be an Irish Catholic. Now I'm an American. That whole thing in Class Clown. Literally, it was watching them listen to that and all their being able to laugh with somebody that really understood their generation of. It was amazing. I wish he had done 5 more albums just on Irish Catholicism.
Yeah. His book was great about his memoir that he did at the end of his life. He actually did, I don't think he finished it. I think he had transcribed a lot of it, but then the guy he was working with ended up having to put it together and finish it. And there's such great stuff of it. He lived basically in like Spanish Harlem growing up, right?
Well, no, in Black Harlem. Spanish Harlem's the east side. He lived in Morningside Heights.
Okay.
Remember, he had a routine in his act called White Harlem. He goes, I grew up, me and my friends call it White Harlem. It was called Morningside Heights, but it doesn't sound as tough when somebody goes, where are you from? Morningside Heights. He goes, we're from White Harlem. Yeah, by Columbia University.
Yeah, right.
There was a little Irish section right there.
Yeah. Now, his description of that growing up and like jumping on the backs of trucks and like, it's just, it's really amazing. Last, rank them, and then I'll let you go. Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx.
Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx. Only because I know Brooklyn and Queens. Brooklyn, of course. I'm not gonna leave my borough out. And then Queens, I've spent more time there. With the Bronx, I worked in, and I also had a girlfriend in the Bronx. So I used to travel to the Bronx all the time. And let me tell you, there's few things more terrifying than traveling the Bronx in the 1980s, because Brooklyn, you'd go to Brooklyn, all the hardcore parts are left of Flatbush Avenue.
Right.
So you take those trains. So all our trains start to get the Bronx. There's no escape. You're going through the South Bronx.
Yeah,
no matter
right.
Get to Throgs Neck, or to get to Kingsbridge on the other side, or to get to Bedford Park. Anywhere in the Bronx, you're trying to get there. You're going through some part of the South Bronx that's badass.
That's right.
I saw, just people coming on the train with bats and just sitting there, but they're not wearing like softball, like dress pants, just sitting there with bats on their way to. It's nobody's playing games in the Bronx,
Yeah, yeah. Now I remember
Bronx is tough. Yeah,
I remember going back to Tarrytown one night, and I was a teenager, and it was late at night, and my car broke down on the Deegan right near Yankee Stadium, and I was like, it was the middle of winter. And you could see the projects are right there, and there's people walking. They can see you, and I'm like, I'm fucking dead. There was no cell phones back then. I don't know how I was going to get I had a flat tire, and all of a sudden this car pulls up behind me, and it's like a Lincoln Town Car, old, tinted windows, mag tires, and I'm like, this is it. And this guy gets out, and he's this fucking huge black dude, and he walks up to me, and he looks at the tire. I go, how you doing? Didn't say a word. Looked at the tire. He went back to his car. I said, I don't have a jack. Got his jack, fucking jacked up my car, fixed my tire. And he went to leave. And I go, dude, I don't know how to thank you. I go, do you have a business card or something? And I said, what do you do? And he said, I'm a caterer. So I got his business card, and I mailed that guy a sterling silver, what do you call it? When you pick a pie with, like a pie server.
Right.
And I told him, I go, I got to tell you, I feel so prejudiced, because at that moment, I saw you as a big black guy in the South Bronx, and I was scared. And instead, you're like this fucking angel.
Right. He was an angel.
Yeah.
Wow. So you sent him a pie scoop, whatever it's called. And well, how old were you?
I was probably like 17.
And you actually had the wherewithal to go, a caterer, I'll send him that's pretty impressive too. Joe, he was impressed by that too.
I think so. We haven't kept in touch, but I hope he's doing well. All right, listen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to wherever you buy books, Amazon, barnesandnoble.com. Overstated is from St. Martin's Press. And it's basically, I'm sorry we didn't talk about it enough, but it's Colin Quinn writing a book. You can't lose. He basically takes you through the history and the kind of concept of every state in the country. It's fucking hilarious. Listen to the audiobook. That's what I listen to. You want to hear it in Colin's voice. You want to hear this stuttering moron read a book. And then also the special comes out on HBO Max. When does that come out?
November.
Okay. In November, summer of 2020, a drive-in comedy special. And don't forget also October 11th, the Ridgefield Playhouse with Gary Gulman. Colin, what a pleasure.
Same here, Greg, always.
I wish I could see you in person, but hopefully that'll be soon.
Yes. And good luck with that 8:15 spot.
I can't wait. I'm gonna have a little cup of tea, get my energy up.
Yes.
All right. Take care, man.
Thanks.
Bye.